Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Hammer. Today is Tuesday, July 16th, 2024. I, of course, am with Originator Discuss here at the Daily Mortgage Rate Update, the only place on the web that you guys get to join me live each and every weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, talk about what's affecting mortgage rates on the day, talk about locking and floating, all that good stuff. Remember, you can see me on YouTube and on Facebook. If you're watching on the replay, don't forget to give me a hashtag replay. If you're here live, say good morning. Don't forget to smash that like button, tag a fellow friend, share us in a group. Go ahead and subscribe on YouTube, all that good stuff. Remember, if you'd like to get my written email lock advice, we send out an email each and every weekday morning. You can sign up for that at www.ratelockadvice.com. You can also use this cool QR code right here. Sign up for that. Get that to your inbox. It goes out about 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time each morning. Already sent out this morning. You can also sign up for our text alerts. You don't need to spend a lot of money to stay protected and protect your pipeline. Right now, things are definitely very calm. However, that's not always the case. So anyway, if you'd like to sign up for our text alerts for $7 a month at ratetextalerts.com, you could also sign up for a reminder that we go live each and every weekday morning. If you want to be reminded so you don't have to look for the link or depend on Facebook or YouTube to remind you, go ahead and go to hmmr.io/reminder or use this other QR code or link that's in the comments. Last but not least, check us out at originatorssuccess.com. Although I love talking about rates and pricing each and every day, what we help you do is get loans from Google and social media. Go find out how at originatorssuccess.com, or you could skip the www. You don't have to say World Wide Web. You don't need that. You could just go right there. So if you're here this morning, say good morning. Let's go ahead and say hi to all the live folks here. Let's see who we got here this morning. Mr. Mike Tebow, good morning, sir. Great to have you here. Megan Lindberg, wonderful to have you. Mr. McAllister, fantastic to have you, y'all. Check out, if you guys use Go High Level or you're looking for a CRM, check out Michael McAllister and his Empower team. They have a entire training program for setting up Go High Level for mortgage people. And I know for a limited time, he's giving away a bonus where you get what they call a snapshot, which is all of the content that is all set for you already for mortgage people. And if you want to learn more, check out this guy, Michael McAllister. He can connect you with somebody on his team and you could learn more about that. So awesome program. Make sure you check him out. Good morning, Mr. Mark Clark. Great to have you here. James Mahan. Great to see you, sir. Michael Love, Sherry Keeter, Rob Stewart, Sean Segaloff, the king of the fried Oreo, Mandy Kangas, Tim Klylup, Max Franks. Great to have all of you here as well. And all right. So no, they need to hear about you, man. You got awesome stuff. So appreciate you. All right, everybody. Well, what we got going on this morning? Let's go ahead and take a look. Rate sheets this morning are holding steady. Rates have really found a sweet spot. I'm going to throw this up on the screen real quick, and then we'll come back to the live. So taking a look here, using Mortgage News Daily as a reference point, you could see that we went from the low sevens down into the high sixes. I had said that after we get the CPI inflation data, I expected rates to drop about an eighth. We're holding steady right around that range. I figured we would hold at that range, and that's exactly where we're at. Nothing that we really have to worry about. So rate sheets really kind of holding steady. You'll see small improvements to pricing, but rates are not going to move down much from here is the bottom line. Reprice risk on the day is low. We don't have much to worry about. If you take a look here, this is a 48-hour chart. Mortgage-backed securities currently up 6 basis points on the morning. You could see yesterday when pricing came out around 10 a.m., we were around 101.10. Right now, we're around 101.02. We're a few basis points lower, but not enough to really see rate sheets make any changes. We lost a little bit of ground through yesterday afternoon. It improved through the morning. We got retail sales data this morning at 8:30. You could see that we were actually doing a little bit better, and then they dipped. Retail sales came in basically, just kind of like flat. American shopper spending was flat last month, bucking economists' expectations for a decline. Retail sales were unchanged in June from the prior month. The Commerce Department said economists expected a 0.4% decline. Spending in May was revised up to a 0.3% rise from a 0.1% gain. So retail sales, meaning people are out there spending money. Remember, when people are spending money, that is something that grows the economy, that contributes to inflation. It does not add to the idea that the Fed is going to cut rates. So, but reprice risk on the day is low. Mortgage-backed securities have gone ahead and kind of rebounded from those levels here and improved a little bit. And they're just floating, like floating around, a few basis points higher. 10-year treasury yield right on that 4.20, 4.19 area, holding steady there as well. The outlook, I've said this before, I'll say it again, it continues to be the case. The worst of 2024 is behind us. Improving from here, though, is going to be slow, and it's going to be in spurts. We're not going to expect to see rates make any big moves lower, especially this week. There's really nothing else going on this week to get excited about. There are a lot of Fed speakers. This is the last week that they can speak before the Saturday of the Fed meeting. So the Fed blackout period will start on Saturday. This week, we have a lot of speakers. Now, yesterday, we did have Jerome Powell speak, and I didn't really make a big deal out of it because there wasn't a big deal to make out of it. It really didn't really matter that much. But what did Powell have to say here? Let's take a look and see. Powell signals rate cut coming into view, but declines to say when. This article written by the Fed whisperer, Nick Timiraos. He didn't need any inside information on this one, though. He was able to just kind of see what Powell said at the meeting. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell declined to change expectations Monday that the central bank would hold interest rates steady at its meeting in 2 weeks, as officials looked ahead towards potential rate cuts after that. And that's what markets continue to price in. If we take a look here at the July meeting, using CME Group for the Fed futures, we could see that there's here. Now, Mike Morano, he said, hearing July surprise rate cut on social yesterday. Absolutely not. I don't know where you heard that, Mike, but I would laugh at that source and say that they have absolutely no vision. There is no way the Fed is going to cut rates in July. Number one, Powell and Powell's, administration as the Fed, calling it Powell's Fed, they have been very, very clear and careful with markets for years now. They're not going to say that they're holding steady, and then turn around and cut rates and surprise everybody. That would, especially when they're just now starting to see signs of inflation getting back under control. So absolutely not going to happen. What markets are pricing in, and it's now up to a 93% expectation. Markets are pricing in a Fed rate cut in September. Now, remember, a month ago, the idea of a Fed rate cut in September was only at 60%. And if we go back even a month past that, it was lower. So that's the big difference. I mean, look at the jump, going on here that we now expect to see a Fed rate cut in September. That is the big deal. That is when we expect to see something happen. It is absolutely not going to happen. When that happens. So taking a look in November, though, this is really where we're seeing the biggest change is markets are pricing in the first rate cut has already happened. And you can see there is no 5.25. Markets do not expect that the Fed would have rates be exactly the same here in November. Now, again, Ron Siegel's pointed out November 7th is after the November 5th election day, right? So it is a couple of days after election day, but even still, the idea that the Fed is going to manipulate the rate for, a political reason, not happening. It's not what part of this is. And there's been an argument over who it would actually be helping and if it would even help Biden and Biden's campaign. So, but taking a look here, the expectation that we are going to see another Fed rate cut in November. Markets are currently pricing in a Fed rate cut in December as well. It's more than it was a coin flip. Now it is leaning towards 3 rate cuts this year. So this is important to note, right? The Fed has said that they basically see 1 or maybe 2. The last dot plot that we saw when we look at that chart says, hey, we see 1 rate cut, maybe 2. That's what you've got right here on the dot plot is from, right here is the 5.25. I'm sorry, this is 1 rate cut. This is 2. I was going backwards in direction. So markets were, or the Fed members were basically looking at the idea that there would be that rates would be between 5 and 5. 5.25 and 5.5, that there'd be no rate cut, that they'd be between 5 and 5.25, one rate cut, that we would see two rate cuts. There was only one Fed member that said three rate cuts. However, markets believe that once we see this economy slowing down, cracks in the labor market, that the Fed is going to have their hand forced. Markets are pricing in the idea that we're going to see three rate cuts. Now, if data starts to come in that doesn't support markets' belief that that's going to happen, that optimistic belief, we would see mortgage rates creep back up a little bit. As long as we continue to see data like we're seeing, though, labor market data showing signs of weakness, economic data not coming in too strong, inflation improving, then that's going to help. Now, we're going to get the PCE inflation data on the 26th. That should come in very good based on the idea of where the CPI data is. So it's very unlikely that you get a CPI inflation reading that comes in below expectation and then the PCE data disappoints, right? So we shouldn't have to worry about that, but that's not until July 26th. And then we've got the July Fed meeting on July 31st. We're not likely, and I'm going to throw this back up on the screen, we're not likely to see rates make any moves from here until we get a small, little bit of help from that PCE data. And then really it's going to be the Fed meeting and the Fed press conference. So that puts us in that situation that I have been in. Hammer, why don't you change lock advice? Because you don't need to. Anything closing less than 15 days, we have cautiously floating. But as I put in the written lock advice, it's unlikely between this week and next week that we're going to see anything really improve. Now, we could see small improvements to pricing, but we're really at this point, we have seen, let me put this on 6 months. We've seen mortgage-backed securities really just kind of treading water. We've got support around 100.78, 100.79. It doesn't really matter, 100.80-ish. And we seem to be hitting some resistance here around 101, this one's here at 101.09, 101, 15. We don't really seem to be breaking out of this. Now, we could actually go up and around 101.40-ish. But I don't think we're even going to make it that far for a while. So if you've got loans closing in the next couple of weeks, it really depends on risk tolerance. We could see rates creep a little bit, but there's no pressing, urgent reason to lock. It's more of the ebb and flow of the markets. And remember, sometimes I'm noticing, though, again, on Facebook, originators get a little freaked out when rates go up and down. We saw that here. They creep up, they creep down. Right now, we're at that lowest point that we've seen in quite a while, 6.81, using Mortgage News Daily as a reference point. And it could creep back up into the 6.9s and then creep back down again. So if you've got something closing in the next couple of weeks and you like where it's at, there's nothing wrong with locking it and moving on. If you're trying to squeeze every ounce of juice out of the fruit, then you could continue floating that. But anything is closing in 15 to 30 days, at the end of the month into August and later, I'm absolutely not locking. We want to float those into the Fed meeting. The Fed meeting, when Powell comes out with the press conference and, starts talking about the expectation, they're going to be looking for expectation of where is the Fed going in December and what are we looking at going into 2025. It's still a little too early to talk about 2025, but remember this, we talk a lot about three cuts this year, but it doesn't just stop this year. Market's going to be looking at where do we go into 2025? What is the expected neutral rate for the Fed? Right now, if you look, by the time we get over a year from now, markets are currently pricing in the idea that we will be at about 3.5 for a Fed funds rate. That is 1.75, a point and 3/4 lower than where we're at today, to be at about 3.5. And if we continue to see the idea that the Fed would move lower on this, that's going to help rates over time. So good morning, Tanya. Good morning, Ron Siegel. You are extra late today, my friend. Good morning, Deb Dickinson. Looking to see what else you guys have to say, if anything, in the comments. Otherwise, I'll wrap it up. But again, a lot to really focus on here. Even Mary Daly, by the way, who is a voting member, said, hey, we're getting there. More Fed confidence. Mary Daly agreed that confident about the inflation path is growing, but also suggested there remains plenty of data to come and confirm that. So again, when we continue to see next month's, we're going to have the Fed meeting July 31st. That is on a Wednesday. Let's just double check and make sure that, let's see. BLS labor report dates. Let's see the schedule release if August 2nd is on that. Yep. So August 2nd. So, I mean, 3 weeks from now, it's going to be, it's going to be a big week because we're going to have the Fed meeting on the 31st. I'm over here looking at my calendar. Then we're going to have the jobs data that week. So 3 weeks from now is when we could see rates really make a significant cut lower, and move back down into maybe the 6 and maybe another quarter point, right? Maybe 6.5, 6 and 5/8 kind of an area here. Is what we could see depending on how that Fed meeting goes, how the labor market comes in, the labor market data. If we get jobs data showing that, unemployment continues to go up, it's definitely, remember, because what we're looking at now is what will the Fed do outside of September, November, December, right? This will become a lock for the September meeting. The November idea of a November rate cut will increase. The idea that we will see 3 rate cuts by the end of December will increase. There's still room for that to happen, and that would cause mortgage rates to improve as we head into the next couple, as we head into August. So, Randy said, how's the Fed going to smoothly land rate cuts when they happen? Not sure what you mean by smoothly land, but basically they're going to, that's why this press conference and that's why July's meeting is such a big deal. They're going to make sure that they really signal that they have gotten data, that they're open, that they're seeing the data, that they've seen continuation, they're growing more confident. They're going to say a lot of things like that they're looking for. And markets believe that once they let the genie out of the bottle, based on what we're seeing here, they expect that we're going to see continued quarter point rate cuts. Nice, consistent, small. Quarter point is small. Remember, the Fed was raising 0.5 to 0.75 of a point when they were raising rates and hiking rates of, last year, the year before. Now we're going to see these rate cuts just a quarter point at a time, just easing things down. And that's what markets are expecting to see. If we were to see bigger rate cuts, that would be a problem. That would signal recession and problems. So, Mike said, didn't Powell say a hard landing is inevitable? I don't know if he said anything like that. I don't think he did. A hard landing being a recession, being unemployment jumping. So far, so good. They have not seen that. They need to see labor market weakness in order to justify cutting rates and finding where that neutral rate will be. So they're seeing what they're seeing. This soft landing that we've seen so far, as much as anybody likes to challenge the Fed or this Fed, whether they got lucky, whether they did it right. I'm not going to argue the merits of how we got here. But as of right now, yes, the economy is slowing down. Yes, labor market is weakening. Yes, people are out there struggling. But at the same point, we have not hit a heavy recession. We have not seen unemployment jump. We have not seen companies that are slamming their doors. Now, I know bankruptcies were up and things like that for companies, but even still, that's, it's always the ebb and the flow, but we're not seeing that. So they've gotten it so far. All right, my friends. Well, I managed to babble. I'm like, how do these get so long? I don't know. I guess I just talk a lot. So appreciate y'all joining me. It's nice to be back in the office this morning and settled back in, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Have a fantastic day. I'll see you on Wednesday.